Welcome to the pit, and today we have got for you Beastyqt spawning in the southwest corner of the map in red, playing as the English. He's playing up against Lucifron in the northeast in yellow as the Daily Sultanate. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fascinating civilization matchup with both civilizations having a lot of potential for pressure in the Feudal Age, especially the Daily Sultanate. Of course, they want that mid-map presence. They want to contest the sacred sites, of which there are 3 on the map within the 3 lanes of the pit. With Beastyqt already opting for 2 Dark Age farms, which is an interesting choice. It does obviously have that transition nice and smooth if he needs to do so. And it does let his scout go out and about a little bit further afield if he wants to get those sheep. And that's actually kind of an interesting thing to think about, because the English civilization is one of those civilizations that start off with extra wood. And it does allow him to actually drop these 2 farms. He's got more sheep underneath the town centre now. He's got 7 on food and is rallying now to gold. And that's kind of run down on the build order. They're usually kind of up for 7 on food, 3 to gold, and then the rest of food until you age up and then steadily switch over to wood. But it's an interesting civilization matchup, and we'll see how this one pans out, whether both civilizations go for heavy feudal age pressure. I suspect that will be the case. The Daily Sultanate is not one of those civilizations you want to leave uncontested in the feudal age, because if they have access to the sacred sites and they kind of protect it, that's a large amount of gold income they get for free, and then that can scale quite nicely for their castle age. So it's something that Beastyqt will want to try and deny. Now, to think about the situation as well on the rank ladder at the moment, Lucifron is actually ranked number 1, so Beastyqt unfortunately had some server crashes with the Age of Empires 4 game. He was going through a couple of problems there, and he lost a lot of points, so he's playing a bit of catch up back to his usual position. He's obviously usually right up there on the rank ladder, so he's going to want to win this one, going directly up against his competitor. As we do see now 9 villages on food and 3 in gold. As you'd kind of expect, pretty standard opening apart from the farms. But it's a nice kind of thought actually, because on the pit you want to try and get as many sheep as possible. There are 3 lanes to contest as well, so you know, obviously getting the 2 farms early does mean you won't have to drop off the sheep too early, or you don't have to bring a scout just for that. It's going to be the council hall, 3 villagers building that, and it's going to be the Tower of Victory for the Delhi Sultanate. It's not often passed up, this opportunity to go for the Tower of Victory against the English, because you want that attack speed bonus. The Tower of Victory actually increases the attack speed of infantry by 15%. And well, consider that the English actually have the outpost, the network of castles bonus, that can increase the attack speed by 20%. So they kind of get that little bit of an edge on that. And also when you compare the longbows to the regular archers, the longbows are slightly expensive, slightly more expensive, but they have a longer range. So that's something to consider. But the regular archers do have a faster movement speed. So if they kind of want to dictate the terms of the fight, the Delhi Sultanate, they certainly can. And you really want to take a decisive fight, because when you're playing as the English or against the English, something to consider in matches is the snowball effect. The snowballing effect with the English is very, very real. If you take one bad fight, or you take a good fight against the English, then things can really pile on from there. You can really pile on the pressure, move forward, and things really escalate. So that's something to consider in terms of the dynamics when you have the English in a ranked online multiplayer game. Looks like Tower of Victory is going to be built sooner than the Council Hall. Does have 4 villagers building that compared to the 3 for the Council Hall. Delhi Sultanate already queuing up a scholar actually nice and early, rather than, he's put a hold onto the research, which is interesting. He wants to increase the speed of research. So the way it works with the Delhi Sultanate, of course, you get the upgrades for free, but the more scholars you have inside the mosque, the quicker the research happens. It's not all that often that we see this, actually. I suspect it comes down to the fact that the piety is not often hugely used at this point, but certainly sanctity will be. So he's actually going to be getting sanctity now next. And, that's not surprising. That's actually an interesting approach to this. Often people would queue up, keep piety kind of completely researched. But I actually cancelled that and got an extra scholar first to make things even faster in terms of research. And it's going to get a blacksmith to start queuing up the blacksmith upgrades. On the side of Beastyqt, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of walls going up, just to protect the economy, because often the Delhi Sultanate will open up with a stable. Even though he's gone for Tower of Victory, although I think in this situation, as we see here, archery range would be possibly better. The issue about getting stable units nice and early is that it's a tricky dynamic when you're up against longbows, and if they kind of develop into a big mass in the sort of 8 to 9 minute of the game, Horsemen can really be a trouble because you need a large mass of them before you engage. If you don't, the longbows can use their range, get a couple of free kills, and then the numbers are starting to dwindle. And these guys aren't cheap. The stable units certainly aren't cheap. So it could be a straight up archer versus longbowman fight, and that wouldn't be a bad play. The good thing about dropping a stable though, it does force Beastyqt into a barracks, as you can see. There's that mill that we're talking about, that we expected to see to boost up the farms. They've got a little nice orange plus on the top of those now, and is it starting to wall up this west side from the wood line to the wood line just to protect this wood line and these villages that are chopping away. 13 of them right now. And we do see a little bit of push out here for Lucifer, looking to try and get some positioning on the map that secure those sacred sites. And we do see actually a scholar also garrison inside that archer range. So he will be able to match up the production speed of the council hall. And we'll be able to spam out those archers. Now we do see an outpost that will give him the network of castles bonus, the attack speed increased by 20%. For the longbows, if they take a fight within the range of this outpost, the range of the outpost is quite significant as well. So he kind of has a good control of this right side of the base entrance to his base here. If he could defend that nicely against the archers that probably will be coming pretty soon. Also in the middle covers quite a nice bunch of it. So we do see a Ghazi Raider. As we talked about horsemen, actually, it's really Ghazi Raider, the new unit for the Deadly Sultanate. Let's talk about that a little bit actually, because the Ghazi Raider is a little bit more expensive than a regular horseman. They can see costing 140. A regular horseman usually costs, I believe, 120. But it does have slightly more HP at 150. A regular horseman, I believe, has 120. And the benefit of the Ghazi Raider is that it, obviously has a higher HP, but also it has a little bit of a bonus attack against armored units. And that will be the +2 attack you can see versus heavy units. It's actually it's quite important in this matchup, because one of the units that the English civilization get are the man-at-arms. And it can be a very, very nice unit for the English, because a lot of civilizations struggle to deal with the man-at-arms. They don't really have much of a counter, whilst they are still feudal age units compared to the castle age units. You know, archers can do a decent amount, but you do need a lot of archers, especially if they have the iron undermesh upgrade, which I suspect, Beastyqt probably will be getting somewhere down the line. He's going to go for the steeled arrow upgrade for his longbows first. Of course, he wants to dish out more damage. The iron undermesh probably be on the cards relatively soon. Deploying the palings just so that he doesn't get attacked and flanked by the Ghazi Raiders. He does pull away his units now just to give away a bit of a control, but he wants to group up and doesn't want to lose a decisive fight. We talked about the snowball effect in this matchup. Taking one bad fight can really change things, so that's not something that he would want to do. But the Deadly Sultanate are also getting professional scouts. It's something that's obviously free, that there's no reason not to get it. That could be something to consider, that Lucifer might be able to get that extra food on the map, pick up those deer carcasses, invest in a couple of scouts. He does have a stable after all. Takes the engagement. Now this is a great fight here for Beastie. He's got the attack speed bonus to 20%. So should be able to push away the Ghazi Raiders at least. And now the Deadly Sultanate do have to back off. Does have access to the sacred site on the east, so we'll be getting that gold trickle, which is very, very nice. And this is where a lot of the fight is happening here on the east side. And it's a really nice position to have this outpost. Nice play there to extend the reach of that network of castles bonus. Farming transition pretty smooth there for the English. Does have wheelbarrow and also double broad axe, so good food and wood income coming in. Of course, the eco upgrades are coming in for the Deadly Sultanate as well, completely free as well, mind you. Does lose a Ghazi Raider for free there, unfortunately. That's not really what he would want there, Lucifron. Does have a scholar inside the stable to double produce from there as well. Now, what could be a potential opportunity for Beastyqt to do is possibly go for a second town centre. It's a little bit late, but you wanted to be able to defend yourself and not die early. So he's got his little bit of a stronghold, but the trouble of going to town centre is you kind of give away a bit of tempo aggression, which again is not really something you want to do against the Deadly Sultanate. You want to make sure you're contesting those sacred sites. The Deadly Sultanate is very much often going to just stick with one town centre. It means they can pump everything else into military. As we do see Lucifer trying to wall up this middle sacred site entrance. It's going to be sniped a little bit by the longbowmen. And the archers do back off. The trouble for this is he invested quite a bit of wood into this. and he can't really defend it. So I think Beastyqt is just going to burn this down and is going to have a way to go into the middle lane of the map if he so wishes. The east side was decapped. Lucifer's going to try and win that again. Equal villager count as you'd expect in this stage of the game, but the military numbers starting to edge a little bit head for Beastie. It's quite nice to watch this game actually, because often newer players of Age of Empires 4 do start playing as the English civilization. So let me know in the comment section below if you're actually new to playing Age of Empires 4 or relatively new, and find these kind of step-by-step strategy talks about how the players are playing in casted games, if they're useful for you, especially with the English civilization, because I know that a lot of new players will be playing as English civilization. You see just one longbow looking to decap that. It's quite a good move. I mean, it's such a high value move, right? You got a unit which is very low in HP, but it does what it needs to do, which is decap the sacred site. As I say, that there's Ghazi Raider now looking to stop that from happening. I do wonder whether Lucifer actually invested in some scouts to get some deer carcasses. It doesn't seem like it just yet, because obviously the Delhi Sultanate can rely on berries, but I think the fact they get professional scouts for free is quite nice. It feels like he kind of should use it. I've seen 3DB use it recently, as we do see a bit of aggression on the west side. Ghazi Raid is trying to ride in. Quite a decent number of archers. Spearmen getting involved as well. Lucifer wants to snipe at the spearmen. He does just that. Spearmen do go down. Ghazi Raid is trying to get wraparound, but now with the network of castles bonus coming into play, that's a bit of a problem. I'm not sure. We talked about how you need a large mass of Ghazi Raiders. It just doesn't have them. And look at this. This is the problem. If you take an engagement, you have to be ready for it. He lost 2 Ghazi Raiders on the retreat. So if it isn't bad enough, if you're diving in and you're not winning a fight, on the retreat you lose even more units. So you have to factor that into the fight and your decision making whether you dive in or not. And that factors into why this game and this matchup is so snowbally against the English. If you take a fight, that's not good. Obviously you die and then you can get punished. But if you take a fight and then you retreat midway, again you still suffer losses. And whilst Lucifer does have the military numbers advantage, it looks like BC is going to try and push down the middle. Decent number of spears and longbows. Large number of army here though. I wonder whether Beastie might have just overextended a little bit. It's certainly something you don't want to do as the English. Spearmen get involved. The archers for Lucifer need to pick apart those spearmen. If he doesn't, the Ghazi Raiders never really get involved. Ghazi Raiders do have to back off. Spearmen diving in. Looks like spearmen numbers start to dwindle, but you know the Ghazi Raider numbers not all that high anyway, and the longbows are dealing out a lot of damage with the steel arrow upgrade. And yeah, look at this. The Ghazi Raiders are all but gone. And at this point, it becomes a stand-up fight between Lucifer's archers and the English longbows. The English longbows look to be perhaps edging this a little bit, 17 versus 21. But don't forget, the defender's advantage means that Lucifer will be up against, the reinforcements coming in quite nicely. We see a tech switch into man at arms, and that's where not having Ghazi Raiders kind of hurts, because the Ghazi Raiders obviously do have the +2 attack against armored units. But I feel like in full feudal age aggression with the English, man at arms is such a pivotal unit. It's so hard to deal with at this stage of the game because, of course, the natural counter to man-at-arms are the crossbow units. The knights can sometimes deal with them a little bit better. Maybe the Ghazi Raiders can do a decent job with their +2 attack on the armoured units, but again, it comes down to that issue of taking fights at good times, because if you don't, the longbows will punish you. As you do now see the sacred site in the middle looking to be capped by Lucifer. Doesn't have the palisade walls up just yet. There are 2 man-at-arms just guarding that. We'll see actually the first engagement between Ghazi Raiders and man-at-arms. Decent number of archers though. The man-at-arms are taking a lot of damage even with the iron undermesh upgrade. Of course they are just feudal age upgrade, man-at-arms rather. But if you have a large number of them, they can certainly pack a punch. Yeah, scout versus longbow. The longbow should win that. The sacred site on the west side will be decapped, it seems. As you can see, the Delhi Sultanate getting gold, 250 per minute. It doesn't even have a single villager on gold. Courtesy, of course, of the sacred sites. Alright, well, Beastyqt has to neutralise the sacred site. Won't get the one on the left. Possibly will be looking to get the one in the middle. All 3 sacred sites in the control of Delhi Sultanate at the moment, but he's losing this one on the right. A little bit unfortunate for him, but he could actually afford to go to the castle age, and I think that's what he's going to do. Yeah, he is. He's going to go with the compound and the defender. So we talked about how having the sacred sites is really, really nice to get to that castle age. Trouble for him is going to need access to that gold vein, and I just wonder whether Beastie is going to go straight heavy into the feudal age pressure. It looks like he is, because he's going to produce out of the council hall. And the barracks getting the man-at-arms. Double barracks as well. Double barracks production. That's actually a concern, because this is probably a very pivotal moment on this game. If Beastyqt pushes now whilst his opponent's taking up, We've talked about it on the channel before, that when you do tech up to the next stage, that's when you're most vulnerable. And it looks like that could be the case in this match on the pit. Just going to dive in. 12 man-at-arms. That is going to be very, very strong. It's going to move in through the east side, the right-sided lane, if you're looking at the perspective of Beastie. Lucifron does get to that castle edge. I think really at this point, the trouble for Lucifron is that he's got plenty of stables. He's going to have to tech into Lancers. Doesn't have the opportunity to go for man-at-arms, which possibly could be the better option. Of course, his man-at-arms will be better than the English man-at-arms in many ways, and of course it does well against the longbows. But it's going to go for the knights instead, which isn't too terrible, all things considered, because there aren't that many spearmen on the field. Does lose that relic-carrying scholar, and the rams are popping out for Beastie, so he senses blood now. He knows his opponent has invested a lot of resources to get that at the next stage, and this is a concern for Lucifron. He didn't actually end up getting the deer packs with his professional scouts at all. Now he's under all sorts of pressure. He's going to lose house. Precious wood has to be now reinvested into those houses. And a lot of production are pretty at risk. I think if, Lucifron loses these production buildings, could be an issue. I wonder whether he goes for the blacksmith to prevent further upgrades. He's going to go for the production first. Longbow's going to dive in the wood line. This is looking terrible for Lucifron. Has to move villagers towards the north to get those, to get the wood and the berries. Looking rough at this point. Does have a couple of lancers. He's going to dive in. I don't know if Lucifron actually has quite enough here. There's a decent number of lancers, but there are man-at-arms, and longbow still dishing a lot of damage. Doesn't have the second upgrade. Of course, the thing with the Delhi Sultanate, to get those upgrades, it takes a while. Longbow's doing great work there. And being buffed by the network of castles. The outpost going forward is so strong for Beastie. Lancers try and ride in. Man-at-arms do get taken apart by the archers, but the longbows are surviving for now at least. He's trying to escape. Lancers are wrapping around. Trouble is, look at the military numbers, 51 to 35. Village count pretty neck and neck. It's actually a very good pushback by Lucifron, but another wave of reinforcements come in. Lucifron needs to pay attention. There are spearmen in there. The spearmen can do a lot of damage. A lot of the units do get taken out on the retreat. A lot of those lancers are very, very weak. Man-at-arms got to push further forward. Archers struggling to deal with them, actually. In the middle, not much is happening. Man-at-arms decapping that central sacred site. Single man-at-arm. Oh, that's actually rough. 15 villagers completely idle there for Lucifron. Lucifron, he's not spotting it. Uh-oh, that's a lot of walking distance. Sure, he's got wheelbarrow, but that is not ideal. He spots it now. Uh-oh. A lot of them are still fighting, though. That's rough. On the east side of things, does lose one production building. About to lose a second to the ram. The knight's diving in. I'm not sure he has enough again. There's spearmen involved. And just the sheer number of longbows are looking really strong for Beastie. As you can see, picking off the knight numbers. It's like just unfavourable fights here for Lucifron. I think he's taking this, but this is a mistake. He can't win this one. And if he loses this fight, this could be GG, because there's going to be nothing standing in the way of Beastyqt and his opponent's base. The ram is still working away, and that was a bad fight. We talked about how this game and this matchup can be very snowbally. Just sending a couple of longbowmen there on the west side does it for him. Beastyqt, his full feudal English is incredibly strong, and it counters the Delhi Sultanate on the pit today. Hard luck, Lucifron, and Beastyqt is back to winning ways.